Protesters in Tel Aviv carry makeshift coffins to demand the Israeli government secure the release of the hostages still being held in Gaza. The man killed in a shootout with officers near the Israeli consulate in Munich was known to police in Austria.
The 5th edition of the World Nomad Games is about to kick off in Astana, with around 90 countries competing in disciplines like horseback archery and falconry.
More job cuts are expected in Germany as the economy struggles to recover.
Protesters have marched in Tel Aviv, carrying coffins draped with the Israeli flag, symbolizing the hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza. Around 70 Israelis are thought to be held captive following the Hamas incursion into Israel last October. Protesters are angry at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for not doing enough to secure their return. On Wednesday, Netanyahu said Israel must keep open-ended control of Gaza's border with Egypt, which protesters fear could derail ceasefire talks. Michel Barnier has promised to respond to the anger of the people in his first speech as Prime Minister of France. Speaking at the handover ceremony with his predecessor Gabriel Attal in Paris, Barnier said his new role would concentrate on fixing a raft of problems causing resentment among French voters.
Il s'agira de répondre autant que nous le pourrons aux défis, aux colères, vous les avez évoquées, aux souffrances, aux sentiments d'abandon, d'injustice qui traversent beaucoup trop nos villes, nos quartiers et nos campagnes.
President Emmanuel Macron named Barnier as France's new Prime Minister on Thursday, hoping the veteran Conservative can work with the country's bitterly divided legislature. Barnier's appointment ends more than 50 days of a caretaker government in France. And he faces the tough task of having to work with an acrimonious and deeply divided hung parliament that emerged from a snap election Macron called in June.
With Michel Barnier in Matignon as Prime Minister, the President remains clearly in power. He is not challenged by his Prime Minister. The extreme moderation, conciliatory character of his Prime Minister is a plus.
He's a loyal veteran of the recently renamed right-wing Republican Right Party and has had a long political career in France and the EU. He served twice as European Commissioner and between 2016 and 2021 was the chief EU negotiator for Brexit. Barnier will now have to survive a confidence vote in the National Assembly, France's lower house of parliament. The man killed in a shootout with officers near the Israeli consulate in Munich was known to police in Austria. Searching his home in Salzburg, police say the man, identified as 18-year-old Emre I, had come to the attention of police in February last year and had been investigated for terrorist links.
Ja, aus Vorfällen im Jahr 2023 hat die zuständige Sicherheitsbehörde, die Bezirkshauptmannschaft Salzburg-Umgebung, das polizeilich angeregte Waffenverbot bestätigt und dieses hätte bis 2028 Gültigkeit.
Emre I, identified by police as an Austrian national with Bosnian roots, was spotted by police near the Israeli consulate carrying a long firearm. He engaged in a shootout with 5 local police officers who opened fire with their service weapons. Authorities believe he was planning an attack on the Israeli consulate, but the motive is still being investigated.
Zur Motivlage kann man zum aktuellen Zeitpunkt natürlich noch nichts sagen. Auch das wird Gegenstand der Ermittlungen sein. Wir sind natürlich an so einem Tag wie heute entsprechend sensibel und waren auch hier mit Objektschutzkräften auch vor Ort.
Israel's foreign ministry said the consulate in Munich was closed when the shooting occurred. The incident comes on the 52nd anniversary of the attack by Palestinian militants on the Israeli delegation at the 1972 Munich Olympics. That ended with the deaths of 11 Israeli team members, a West German police officer, and 5 of the assailants.
As the Paralympics wrap up in Paris, another global sporting event begins in Astana, the World Nomad Games. Athletes use ancient warfare skills of historically nomadic peoples in sports like horse wrestling, horseback archery, martial arts and falconry, but also compete in cultural and scientific games. The aim is to develop and preserve the ethno-cultural movement, which has in host country Kazakhstan one of its most important cradles.
Всемирные игры кочевников – это уникальная возможность показать миру богатое историко-культурное наследие нашей страны, показать дух народа, показать глубокую душу казахского народа.
Over 2,000 athletes and around 90 countries will be there. The list of participating nations has grown way beyond those with a nomadic heritage.
What's interesting that we see countries coming, the geography of participating countries, from Australia to Canada, from South Africa to Great Britain, those states that have little nomadic history in the past. So meaning that these games are actually going around the world, and we see this great interest.
The World Nomad Games take place from Sunday the 8th of September to the 13th of September.
After the news that Europe's largest car producer, VW, may close 2 plants, experts are sounding the alarm that the downsizing of manufacturing isn't just limited to the car industry. The German Institute for Economic Research, DIW, says companies need to evolve.
Germany is very export dependent. Germany is very industry dependent, and like Volkswagen, many other companies have missed out on the transformation. And for Volkswagen, that means specifically they have not managed to make the transition to electric cars. They're falling behind. They've had very high profits in the past, very successful, and now they're suffering from a hangover, if you wish. And this is not just the automotive sector, it's machinery, it's the pharmaceutical, the chemical sector. This is quite a problem many have.
The largest chemical producer in the world, who has its headquarters in Germany, BASF, is also looking at relocating some of its workforce to Asia and laying off workers in Germany amid exploding energy prices due to the full-scale invasion in Ukraine and burdensome bureaucracy in Germany.
Germany's biggest problem is not short-term, it's structural, it's long-term. So we expect in our forecast a stagnation, maybe for another year, and then a gradual recovery. So it will take some time, and that's frustrating for companies, for the government to hear, but that's part of the truth. It will require some resilience and continued investment for the next 5 years, and then hopefully over that period the German economy will manage the transition.
Europe's strongest economy is still grappling with leaving its recession behind.
As EU car companies struggle with the phasing out of combustion engines and a transition to electric vehicles before 2035, experts are predicting that thousands more jobs may be cut across different sectors over the next couple of years. With the German economy largely dependent on the car industry, these mass layoffs may lead to an increase in disillusionment and play into the hands of the far right. This could have a major impact on next year's federal elections. Liv Stroud in Berlin for Euronews.
There's been a proliferation of sinkholes in the southern Konya region known as the breadbasket of Turkey. They pose a threat to agricultural activities and are now getting closer to population areas. The latest count shows their number has now exceeded 2,600. Most happen as a result of drought and uncontrolled use of underground water. The director of the Sinkhole Application Research Centre said that the phenomenon will always exist, but human activities are causing their number to rise.
Ce mur, construit au cœur de la forêt polonaise de Białowieża, sépare depuis 2 ans la Biélorussie à ma gauche de la Pologne. Un rempart contre l'afflux de milliers de migrants dont Minsk est accusé d'orchestrer le passage en force vers l'Union européenne. Un sujet qui polarise plus que jamais l'opinion polonaise.
Zależy nam na bezpieczeństwie naszego kraju, przede wszystkim naszych rodzin, naszych wartości, które Polska ma. Jakby chodzimy też wzdłuż tutaj pogranicza, żeby jakby zatrzymywać tą falę nielegalnej imigracji.
Jeżeli chodzi tutaj o Pani nagrywanie niewyraźnie zgodnego.
J'aimerais rester en Pologne parce que tel que ce qu'on m'a fait au Cameroun, si je rentre là-bas, c'est seulement la mort.
Jeśli nie będzie woli przyjęcia tych wniosków o ochronę międzynarodową, no to wtedy niestety zostaną odstawieni do linii granicy i wyparci na Białoruś. Ale mam nadzieję, że do takiego scenariusza nie dojdzie.